Step right up, dummies, and listen to the stupidest sports show on earth with Rodney Newpol and Tim Van Stratton. We have made it, Rodney. Episode 4 of the stupidest sports show on earth. I personally cannot believe it. I'm stunned. I thought they'd give us like 2, 3 max.
We have not been pulled off the air yet.
They say, don't let a podcast get to the 4th episode. That's always what they say. But welcome in to the stupidest sports show on earth, episode 4. My name, I don't know why my name isn't coming up here. I am Tim, the great Bambino Van Stratton. Alongside me is Rodney Newpol. You could follow him at Newpol Rodney on Twitter. Follow me at Big Time Tim Jim. Rodney, I don't know what else to say other than football. Just football.
That's right. That's all there is to say right now. I mean, we talked about this. All 4 shows, our baseball teams are all but eliminated. I mean, at this point, yes, all it is football. Last night's game was great. I'm going to go ahead and pat myself on the back for that over last night. Easy money. Easy money. I tried to tell all you guys easy money on that over. Only nerds bet under on the primetime. Hope you nerds enjoyed losing that money on the under last night.
Man, I was feeling so cocky too, like after it went 7-7 early on, and it's just like, all right, here we go. This is a shootout, and then it was just field goals. At some point, though, there was a sweat, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, Patrick Mahomes threw an interception before half. It was like, oh, man, they were going to get some points. Justin Tucker, of all people, missed a field goal. Those were some points we needed. Even late. Well, I guess the Zay Flowers wide open wouldn't have mattered because they had already got the total anyway. But Lamar Jackson missing guys all over the field, that hurt our total. But in the end, we did win the the over and 1-0 in over prime times. Staying away from tonight though, not doing it in Brazil.
Yeah, we're gonna get to tonight's game in a little bit. In Brazil, I believe is how they say it, but Chiefs 27, Ravens 20 was the final score of the first game, and yeah, I would say the matchup was great. A lot of people were really looking forward to it. It was a rematch of the AFC title game. Like the game yesterday was much better than the AFC Championship was. That was just a defensive, slugfest. Not really a whole lot going on. But right. Yesterday, I think we saw really good moments from both teams. Lamar had a lot of really great moments. It wasn't really a wildly impressive game for Mahomes, but he made the throws that he had to. But what were, let's say, your 2 biggest takeaways from the Chiefs' 27-20 win yesterday?
Well, so, I mean, all in all, Derrick Henry wasn't really all that effective. He was good on the first drive, scored the touchdown. It looked like, oh man, these guys are going to be difficult. And the broadcast crew kept talking about how, you've got big Derrick Henry going one way, you got fast Lamar Jackson going the other. But after about the first drive, Baltimore could not effectively use him. And then, on the other side, well, on the same side, but on the other side of the coin here, Lamar Jackson just continues to miss open receivers. And how long is he going to be able to just run for first downs and run for touchdowns? I mean, he's getting older. The legs are going to work less and less as he gets older. And there's a lot of people talking about how Lamar Jackson is never going to win a Super Bowl. I think I'm in that camp. Just the way he plays, he's good. Don't get me wrong. MVP last year, don't get me wrong. Very good fantasy player because he's going to get you all those rush yards. He's also going to throw for a few touchdowns. But I'm almost with them. I'm not sure Lamar Jackson is a Super Bowl winning quarterback because this is not accurate when he needs to be. I mean, if he finds Zay Flowers in the end zone last night, we're talking overtime. We're talking in a really good game. But man, wide open in the end zone.
Yeah, I saw a stat this morning. It was from Nick Wright from Fox, and he said Lamar Jackson's a 2-time MVP who's a no-doubt Hall of Famer. He also somehow is now 4-12 versus Mahomes, the Steelers, who are obviously Baltimore's biggest in-division rival, and in the playoffs with a 75 QB rating. He's 54-12 against everyone else. So regular season, and including against every team that's not the Steelers, their biggest rival, against Mahomes, who's his biggest quarterback rival, who's arguably the one team that is preventing Lamar from taking the Ravens to the Super Bowl. I mean, that's That's pretty unbelievable. And I think you nailed it on the head. Like you could see how special he is. He had his way on the ground. He did a lot of great things, but then you see at the end, you have Zay Flowers wide open.
Yeah.
And then suddenly Lamar Jackson becomes DJU and he can't make a throw. Like it was not accurate and it cost him the game. Like everyone's going to talk about Isaiah Likely and his toe being the reason that the Ravens didn't tie, but no, it was the play right before that. Like that's the reason. So yeah, it's one of those things where the talent is clearly there. He's a 2-time MVP. Only so many people in NFL history can say that. But I mean, we could play the game. Like, how many quarterbacks in the NFL today would you rather have if you needed to win one game? You had to win one game for your life, which is a great game, right? Like, you die if this quarterback loses. Like, what quarterback are you taking ahead of Lamar Jackson? Like, certainly Mahomes. I think I'd probably take Joe Burrow. I probably go Josh Allen. And then, you start to consider a bunch of other guys as well. Like we'll see, how Caleb Williams ends up being, as his career progresses. But yeah, it's for a 2-time MVP, you'd want to have a lot more confidence in him. I just don't.
I don't either. I don't either in big games like that. I mean, I'm gonna bet the Ravens quite a bit this year when they play some of these other teams. But it comes down to pick an AFC champion or whatever. Like I can't go with Baltimore. And then what I wanted to mention is, so if guys took not first round, but early draft picks in fantasy on Mark Andrews or Travis Kelce, that you got to be a little bit concerned after week one. I mean, both teams had tight ends that were more involved than those guys. And maybe you're starting to see those guys become more of the blocking tight end, more of the secondary roles, and the younger, more athletic guys at this point getting, Isaiah Likely, you got Noah Gray in Kansas City. They just re-signed him for a reason. So, I stayed away from Andrews and Kelce. I'll pat myself on the back on that one for now. But I'm wondering about some other guys in the tight end world, like the guys I did draft. Are they going to be, what are we doing here with tight end? Are we going younger, more athletic, and less of the big, reliable guys? We'll see. But not a good start for Andrews and Kelce last night.
No, I'll say this. I don't want to hit the panic button on Kelce. Like, I think that we saw last year that he had those games where, okay, he was a little bit quiet. He only gets you, 5-6 fantasy points.
Yeah.
But then we saw in the playoffs, he was incredible. Like he has that gear, and I think maybe he's sort of in that range where you just have to sort of take the good with the bad. I am, however, totally hitting the panic button on Mark Andrews. Like, it seems like Mark Andrews is going to be very low on the depth chart this year in terms of options for the Ravens. Like, Lamar's going to be running a lot. They're going to hand the ball off to Henry, but it seems like Isaiah Likely is becoming a guy there. He looked really good. He nearly had 2 touchdowns, but he looked great. Zay Flowers is going to be a very prominent person, that receiving core. And a lot of times they just had Mark Andrews on the line to block.
Yeah.
Like that one would concern me a bit. And especially because he was injured for a lot of last year. So I'm not giving up on Kelce yet. And I have Kelce on 2 of my 3 fantasy teams right now. And I still think that he's going to be heavily featured for Kansas City. He's just too important to Mahomes. But Andrews worries me a lot.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you're right. You saw Mahomes in a big spot last night, for a big first down, get the ball to Travis Kelce, and he's looking his way. You did not really see Lamar Jackson when he needed somebody to make a catch, throw it to Mark Andrews. I mean, it was either he ran or it was Isaiah Likely. I mean, Rashad Bateman had a catch late in the game. Justice Hill, I think you nailed that one as far as his receptions and his yards last night. He went way over his prop.
Insane. Okay, so this is where common sense comes into play, and anyone that wants to bet player props this weekend, just consider this, okay? So Justice Hill is RB2, right behind Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry is not the pass-catching running back that you're going to target, on a third down, that you're going to throw behind the line of scrimmage, because he's not the speed. He's the bruiser that you're going to hand it up and he's going to run up the middle. So Justice Hill is going to get all those opportunities. I'm looking through player props yesterday, and Justice Hill's over-under for receptions is 1.5. His receiving yards is 9.5. Like, it's those moments where it's like, wait a minute, what am I missing here?
Yeah.
Like, what am I missing? And he got over on both of them. I think on their first drive.
Yeah.
He had 2 catches for 13, 14 yards, and that was that. And then he continued to rack up catches and yards after that. So it's something to think about. If you know the depth chart, it's a good idea to target some of those backups and take advantage of those opportunities. So you've patted yourself on the back twice now. I'm going to do it one time here. So
Good work. No, I mean that's how a player wins with player props is you just continue you follow it, you find every opportunity and you nail things like that. And you don't get carried away. I mean, you find the 1 or 2 that you love, that you're really confident about, and you just hit those. Some of these guys are going multiple, dozens of player props, and it's like, okay, like not all of these are going to hit in one game.
Mm-hmm.
You're reaching here, but I think the 1 or 2 there for Justice Hill, you're on the right path there. So we'll see if you can grab a Packers Eagles one tonight.
Yeah, and speaking of Packers Eagles, that is the next game that we're going to hit here. A rare Friday night game, and even more rare that it's in Brazil. This is the first. Yes. I'm pretty sure this is the first NFL game in South America, let alone Brazil, at Corinthians Arena. Now this is interesting. These neutral site international games, because you throw all sort of home field advantage out the window. Like, I'm sure we would be looking at this game entirely different if it was in Green Bay or if it was in Philadelphia, but it's not. It's a neutral game, but also it's a field that's not used for this sport. So you kind of have to factor that in as well. You mentioned at the beginning, like, you're not really going to attack this game from a betting angle a lot, which I totally understand, because 1, it's week 1. Right? That's the obvious one. But 2, it's for all of those reasons. How's the field going to hold up? What is just going to be sort of the vibe there? Like, and there are also new pieces on both teams, new running backs that are upgrades over their previous ones. But like, how do they factor into the offense? So there's just a lot of unknown variables for this game. I'm very fascinated by it. I'm very excited to watch it and see how it plays, because I think both teams are going to be playoff teams again. But yeah, I don't have a very set lean right now either way. I think maybe if I had to, I kind of think the Eagles win and cover. I'd like to get them 2.5, and I think that's around what the line's at right now. But yeah, what are your sort of initial thoughts about how this game is going to play out?
Yeah, I'm certainly not going to attack the total. That's where I don't want to attack at all, only because, again, the unknown of, is the turf or the grant, is it even turf or grant? I don't know, but the playing surface is going to be different. It's not used to football. How's it going to hold up? Is it going to be fast or slow or whatever? I don't know that. I'm sure some can speculate on that. I don't know how we truly know until there's actually a game played there. I will take the Eagles, though. I feel like the Eagles are better. I am not, and I talked about this on my Sunday show with Skeeter Robinson. I'm not buying into Packers are still, are the next great ascending team. They finished the season strong last year. I'm not sure how good they are. The NFL is going to catch up a little bit to Jordan Love. I like Jalen Hurts. I like Saquon Barkley. I like A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith. I like the Eagles to win this game. And right now I got it at 2. I like it. I mean, if they're going to win the game, okay, maybe they win by 1, but they're probably going to win by 2 or more, which gives you a good opportunity there. So I like the Eagles tonight, staying totally away from the total. No over, no under. Only nerds bet the total in this one.
Yeah, you brought up a good point. There's such different momentum that these teams ended last year. Like, if you remember, the Eagles were in the conversation for the 1 seed in the NFC, and then everything just sort of unraveled the last few weeks. And it got to the point where by the time they got to the playoffs, they looked like a shell of what they were, and were absolutely obliterated by the Bucs. You compare that to the Packers, who were, what were the Packers, like 3-6 at one point last year?
Yeah.
And then suddenly Jordan Love just flipped a switch. And the last 8 or so games of Jordan Love to lead Green Bay to the playoffs, to nearly beat San Francisco on the road to go to the NFC title game. Like, that, I think, made everyone believe in the Packers. And now people are a little bit hesitant on Philadelphia. By the way, I'm pretty sure Philly is not the NFC East favorite. I think it's Dallas, which I do not agree with at all. I think Philadelphia should be the favorite in the NFC East. And if you could find them, at reasonable odds,
right,
to win the division, a division that hasn't had a repeat winner in 20 years, I would strongly recommend to do that. But yeah, it's just funny how the last few weeks of the previous season, even though 6-7 months ago at this point, suddenly has altered our view of both of these teams. But yeah, I'm going to take the Eagles to win. I like them as a 2-point favorite. I think they're going to do a lot of stuff on the ground. I think you're going to see a lot of Saquon featured. Jalen Hurts, I think, despite not having Jason Kelce to just ram the other team's defensive line, I think you're going to see some vintage tush push tonight. And Jalen Hurts is my guaranteed anytime touchdown scorer. Guaranteed.
Yeah.
Guaranteed.
Yeah.
Write it down.
I like that. I mean, what do you have, 20 last year? And that's what, Saquon Barkley owners in fantasy, it's like, okay, you know what could be happening here, right, guys? Like, you get Barkley down to the 2-yard line and Hurts is going to push it in from there. You've been warned. You know what could happen here, Barkley owners. So I am really interested to see how the Eagles use Barkley, because they've never really been, or recently never really been, the number one back type of team. But Barkley's the number one back. So it'll be interesting to see how they use him and how effective he is. Like I said, Derrick Henry was effective early and then just kind of went away. I'd like to see if Barkley is a 4-quarter effective guy. One of your old guys, Saquon Barkley. And is he going to stay on the field is the question. He's oft injured Saquon Barkley.
Yeah, for the record, I don't miss Saquon Barkley. I'm happy that he's gone. Do I love the fact that he went to their biggest rival? No, obviously. I don't like the Eagles at all as a Giants fan, but like, I'm not sitting here being like, oh my God, we lost Saquon. What's going to happen? Because it didn't make sense to pay him that much money.
No.
And in 6 seasons now, he's been fully healthy for 2.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah. I mean, he's missed time pretty much always. And one of those healthy years was his rookie season, which was
right.
6 years ago at this point. So like, I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh my God, the season's over. And listen, if the Eagles want to spend all that money for him, fine. I think he's going to do really well. I'll say this about the injury thing, though. The benefit of him going to Philadelphia in that situation is that he isn't going to be relied on as much the same way that he was with the Giants for the last few years, because they can get the ball to, or like Hurts can take it himself. They can obviously distribute to AJ Brown, to Devontae Smith. Like, they have options there. But I would be shocked if he ended up playing 17 games for them still, despite all that.
Yeah. I mean, he's aging, and the history shows he just doesn't play 17 games very often. So it'll be interesting to see. You're taking an Eagles side, or where are you going here?
I was saying, so for this game, if I had to, I don't feel it's funny because I felt a very strong conviction about Baltimore yesterday. Obviously, it didn't end up winning, even though they were a toe away. And I was so excited when I saw Harbaugh going for the win with the 2-point conversion. I was so geeked up for about 3.5 seconds. But but for this game tonight, I would say Eagles. I'll take them -2. I'm going to probably stay away from the point total as you are. But I would also lean toward the under, especially because I wouldn't be surprised if we also get some rain too, and that's going to impact the game. Like, I don't see 7 combined touchdowns from these teams. Maybe in a different setting, perhaps, but I don't know if I see it immediately week 1.
Can I just say that I'm glad the Isaiah Likely review was obvious, because like, we don't need the drama of, is his foot on the line? Is it not? Week 1. The betting number is right on that. Obviously that changed. Somebody posted it was millions and millions and millions of dollars that would have switched hands last night on that play.
Mm-hmm.
I guess, like, the drama in me is like, oh man, I wish it would have been a little more not obvious. But I was kind of glad, because I was ready for bed. Like, I didn't want to see a 20-minute review and argument and all that. And then, I was kind of with you on Harbaugh. I was on Kansas City side. So I was already going to lose the bet on that touchdown. But I'm like, all right, sweet. We're going to finish the game right here. Harbaugh's going to go one play. Derrick Henry's in the game. Lamar's probably going to run it. Isaiah Likely's probably going to be open again. But they didn't even get that. It would have been nice to see that one play. But it was obvious his foot was on the line.
Yeah, like you forgot for a second that you are a degenerate and you went back to your childhood and reminded yourself like, oh, this is why I enjoy football. Like it's just one of those things.
Yeah.
And I do that too. Like sometimes I will root against my bets if the moment is just that great because it's
Yeah.
sports. Like I think that that's okay. That's
Yeah.
another thing too. Like part of the stupidest sports show on earth, like the reason that we named it this is because like it's okay to just go back to the basics and just watch a game and just be like, this is awesome. Like this rules. And you just watch sports in that way. You're not concerned about the data and the spreadsheets and your bets and all those things. At some point, you're just like, man, this freaking rocks. And then you just watch it and that's it. And I think last night I sort of had that moment and you had that moment as well. So that's good. Like lean into that. That's a good thing. Remember that this weekend when you're getting all triggered because all your bets are losing. It's like, well, if they lost because of an epic moment, like, okay, like it's fine. It's cool. Congratulations. You watch a 3-hour game that was great and it ended in a historic fashion. Like, congratulations. That's a good.
But then there are some days when I watch football and I'm like, God, this game's really dumb. This game is so dumb. This game is so dumb. Like, why are people playing this game? Like, why did I spend 9 hours on Sunday watching this dumb game? And I just got mad. I got mad because my Sunday night, like this game's dumb. But let's be honest, football's kind of dumb, right?
I mean, yeah, a lot of elements of it are dumb. That said, as one of the hosts of the stupidest sports show on earth, that makes me one of the stupidest sports podcasters ever. And I love it. I love every second of it. And every single year I look more and more forward to football. 10 years ago, I would have been like, oh, okay, yeah, football's back. And now it's just I can't wait. I need it.
I mean, you were updating me on free agents in May. So yes, you've been ready for this. You were ready for the draft in February.
As a Giants fan, I was ready for the draft in mid-October of last year.
Yeah. I mean, college kids were still playing. You still wanted them drafted.
So there's two ways we can go here. So we have two options, Rodney, and I'll let you pick. We could continue NFL and talk about some of our division by division predictions for the 2024 season, because this is the last time that we're going to get to do it. Or we could pivot, just do a quick little college football week 2 preview, some of the best games that are on tomorrow. Where would you like to go?
Let's pivot over to college for a few minutes, and then we can get back to the NFL, because I'm sure our best bets for betting will get back to the NFL. So let's go quickly to college. Obviously, the big game, Texas, Michigan. Personally, I think Michigan's dead. I think they're dead ducks. I don't know that Michigan's that good this year. They lost all sorts of talent. They lost their coach. They blew out. I mean, it didn't even really blow out, but they beat somebody bad last week. But who cares? It's week 1 at home. I think Michigan's in trouble this week. So I'll start there. There is a game tonight. I know nobody's going to watch it because the NFL is on. SMU and BYU. I am interested. I cover some Big 12 football. BYU's there. I don't think they're going to have a chance against SMU. I know I'm kind of getting ahead of myself here, but I'm going to take SMU and that minus 11.5. And then I'm going to did I get it right here? The Illinois-Kansas game this weekend.
Yes.
Rock Chalk Jayhawk, baby. Be there tomorrow night. It's supposed to be 48 degrees tomorrow night, Tim. 48 degrees.
No.
Have to wear pants.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't know about that. But anyways,
I've seen you wear shorts in much colder weather than that, though.
Fact. Illinois-Kansas is going to be a pretty good game, I think. I'd like to see how good Illinois is. I do believe Kansas is pretty good. Jalen Daniels is back and healthy. Devin Neal, one of the better running backs in the country. So I do like that game. It's 5.5, 6. Obviously, here in Illinois, it is illegal to bet Illinois games with the legalized books. But I'm taking Kansas on that one. So just kind of a couple there. I do think Iowa State wins at Iowa.
I was going to ask you about El Assico. Yeah, it's Iowa's a 3-point favorite. The first half of that game last week, it was like, oh my God, nothing's changed. And then they were like, oh, wait a minute, we're playing an FCS team. And then they managed to drop 40-ish. But 3-point home favorites. Yeah, I'm interested that you're taking the Cyclones there.
Yeah, no, I like the athleticism of Iowa State more than I like the defense of Iowa. I do think it's going to be a slow, low scoring game. I mean, so we've talked about Iowa and their defense, and obviously they've had solid defense for years, but Iowa State only about 3 points last week. They are also pretty good defensively. I think Matt Campbell's going to have a nice game plan for the Cyclones to beat the Hawkeyes. I'm going to take Iowa State to win on the road in Iowa City. And that would be a big feather in the Big 12 cap over the Big 10. So a pretty big rivalry, pretty big conference battle there. Other than that, Oklahoma State is a 7.5-point favorite at home against Arkansas. You know, we look at Arkansas and they're an SEC school, but they're kind of like the bottom of the SEC these days. An old power football program that's kind of died down a little bit. I've talked a lot about Oklahoma State. Ollie Gordon's my guy. I'm going to take the Cowboys minus 7.5 in that one.
Did you mention Tennessee, NC State? Because that's another one of the ones where it's two top 25 teams against each other. Yeah. Tennessee is a 9.5-point favorite on the road against the Wolfpack. Like in those instances, a ranked team being that big of an underdog at home in NC State, like my instinct just immediately is, okay, NC State plus 9.5. Like, do you think Tennessee can win this game on the road by double digits?
I think they can win the game, but by double digits is difficult too. I mean, I even saw it at 10 this morning, so you can get it at 10 points. Fantastic. I will take NC State in this one at home. They did not play real well last week. I think they are better than that. They're kind of one of those ACC. They're trying to hold up the flagship here of, oh man, Florida State stinks, Clemson stinks. So somebody's got to kind of stick with Miami here and see if one of these ACC teams can be any good. Maybe it's NC State, but I don't know if they beat Tennessee. Tennessee and their quarterback play is better. They probably have better skill players. But I do think NC State is going to cover that one. I'll take them plus 10, yes, in Raleigh.
And then the other game that I just wanted to touch on real quick, like, again, you know a lot more college football than I do. But when I see Appalachian State, all I think about is why would anyone schedule them to come into your building? They're going to Clemson, who fell all the way to 25 after just looking horrible against Georgia. Now, okay, Georgia's the best team in the nation. Like, that's obvious.
Correct.
And a lot of teams are going to look really bad against Georgia. That said, I don't think anyone is coming out of that game, though, and saying, oh, well, Clemson's really good, but Georgia's just better. No, I think it was Georgia's really good, but also Clemson looked bad. And now Clemson's home, but they're welcoming an Appalachian State team that just is one of those teams and one of those programs that always just seems to give favorites trouble. Clemson's a 17-point favorite. So, again, kind of similar to how I was feeling with NC State. Like, I look at that line and I'm like, Clemson doesn't inspire me enough to where I would confidently say, yeah, they're going to win that game by over 17 points. They don't look very good.
Yes, I'm taking Appalachian State to cover this one. Yes, that's one of those automatic, like, oh man, it's that many points. I mean, and you're right. Appalachian State is the team that at this point you're looking at. It's like, oh boy, they're on the road somewhere. What are they?
Why does anyone schedule them? Like, why do you pay them to come to your building to kick your ass? Like, that's it baffles me.
Yeah, I mean, and you're right, Clemson looked so poor last week and you're right, Georgia is fantastic, but I'm just not impressed with the Clemson team. They are playing a bunch of young freshmen, probably going to end up being pretty decent in a couple years if they all stay. Now, they're probably going to end up leaving. I mean, that's how the college football works these days, Davo. Let's figure that out. But yeah, I mean, I love Appalachian State. That's one I should have mentioned as well. But the Mountaineers will be the cover team for me. Yes, I will take Appalachian State.
All right, Rodney. Should we move on and get to some NFL predictions?
Yes, sir. Let's do it.
NFL predictions. Now, I don't know how you want to do your predictions, and I won't go through every single team record that I did, but I like to do this before every single football season starts, where I will go through and I will pick the winner of every single game, all 18 weeks of the season. This is before I see injuries, before we know anything about these teams. It's just like, all right, this is my lane. And it's tough because you kind of just have to look at, okay, which teams are going to be coming off a bye week, which teams are going to be coming off a short week. You think about those things, who's home, who's on the road, who's due. You kind of see the records as like, all right, well, I'm not going to have 7 teams that all win 2 or fewer games. Like it's not realistic. That's not how the NFL works. So you kind of have to consider it that way. But I went through and I picked every single winner for 18 weeks and the playoffs. And I was a little bit surprised about some of the results, especially like throughout the division. So how do you want to do this year? Should we just go through like each division and you give me sort of the team that you think is going to win? And we'll do that.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. And you've done a little bit more of your research with game by game here, so you can spend a good chunk of the time on it. But yeah, I'll just give my division winners. That'd be fine with me.
All right. Let's start the AFC North. So AFC North, I had the Baltimore Ravens winning the division, 13-4, which included a victory over Kansas City on Thursday. Obviously, that did not happen. But I still think Baltimore is going to end up being really good. There were a lot of things to like about the team yesterday, and it's just, their first game is on the road at the back-to-back Super Bowl champ. It's not an easy place, but I like the Ravens to win. I had them at 13 wins, but I think the Bengals and Browns are going to be right there. I like both of them to not just have winning records, but also be playoff teams. I have both of them winning at least 11 games this year. I think the Bengals are going to benefit from a last place schedule. If Joe Burrow's healthy and Jamar Chase and T. Higgins are on the field consistently, they should be really good again. And then the Browns have a really strong defense. Just one of those teams that's a good roster that if Deshaun Watson they can get anything out of is going to become a great football team. So I like all of them, but I had Baltimore winning the division there.
Yeah, I'm going to take Cincinnati to win this division. I'm a believer in the Joe Burrow comeback, whatever. I mean, he was here last year, but bounce back season. He was hurt last year. He never really got effective back in his return. I do believe he's going to be real effective this year. You mentioned the 2 receivers. I'm going to take Cincinnati to win the division. Baltimore right there second. I'll probably go Pittsburgh third. I'm not a believer in Cleveland. I think the Nick Chubb injury is going to be even more so than it is loss for them. And Deshaun Watson is going to have to figure it out. So I will go Cincinnati, Baltimore, Pittsburgh, Cleveland in that order.
Yeah, I have Pittsburgh fourth, but in Mike Tomlin fashion, he will not allow them to have a losing record. So I have them just sitting at 9-8, and they're going to figure out how they're going to split between Russell Wilson and Justin Fields. Like they're going to be not they're a team that we're going to watch be like they're not very good, but yet they're somehow going to be in the playoff mix with a couple weeks left to go in the year, like they are every year. AFC East, this was a surprising one to me because I can't remember if we had talked a little bit about this earlier, but I was a little bit down on the Bills coming in. Like they lost both Diggs and Gabe Davis, but I mean, Josh Allen's Josh Allen, and just the way their schedule lined up, I still have the Bills winning 12 games and taking the division. Now, I think the Jets, as we talked about in Tuesday's edition of Gas or Ass, this was our one disagreement where I really like the Jets this year, and I have the Jets winning 11 games. So I think the Bills just edge out the Jets for the division. The Dolphins take a little bit of a step back. 9-win team misses the playoffs, and the Patriots are going to be, not very good.
Yeah, I will also take Buffalo. So actually, sounds like we're just flipping 2 and 3 because I'll take Miami second, I'll take the Jets third, and Patriots last. I'm not going to believe in the Jets. Nobody's going to convince me until I actually see it on the field. I just cannot. I cannot buy into the Jets being a playoff contending team. So Buffalo, Miami, Jets, Patriots for me.
All right, I wanted to pull up to see like what the current odds are for each division, but so maybe you can pull those odds up here just to see sort of where these teams are. Like I'd love to see what the Bengals preseason odds are because I would imagine Baltimore and Cleveland are both going to be ahead of Cincinnati if I had to guess. Certainly Baltimore will be even after Thursday night, but AFC West, don't really have to overthink it. I think the Chargers will be better with Harbaugh. I think the Broncos should be a little bit more stable. Year 2 of Sean Payton, even though he has a rookie quarterback now in Bo Nix. Raiders finally have that McDaniel stink off of them, and it's going to be a full year of Antonio Pierce. But don't overthink it. The Chiefs are going to win that division. I have them at 11-6, and even if they have sort of that midseason lull that we saw last year, like they're not going to face any realistic competition from anyone in that division. I did see a couple people that were throwing out like Broncos and Chargers as potential wild card teams, and I don't see it. I don't see it, especially the Chargers. Like Harbaugh is great, but also that roster is is a shell of what it was. And maybe in a year or two they could be in that mix, but not this fall.
Yeah, I'm going to go Kansas City. I'm going to go Denver number 2. Just like maybe a little more veteran leadership there in Denver than the Chargers. Have a lot of moving parts in LA that I'm not convinced on yet. Harbaugh's going to end up being good eventually for the Chargers. I'm not sure it's going to be this year. I'll take the Raiders last. And then back to your question earlier, the Bengals are right there with the Ravens as divisional favorites. Ravens are plus 170. The Bengals are plus 130. Cleveland's plus 500 to win that division. So little bit of discrepancy there. And then let's see, the North, Buffalo is minus 195 and Miami's plus 205. So very tight there as well. Jets are plus 165, the favorites to win the AFC East.
The favorites.
This is via our buddies at DraftKings.
Yeah, I'm surprised that the Bengals are that high, but also the sports books are probably trying to get action on Cleveland and Pittsburgh because that division is so tight. But yeah, I don't like Miami at those odds either, but that's interesting. Nope. And then the last one from the AFC, barring a sophomore slump or an injury, CJ Stroud is the best quarterback in that division pretty easily right now. The team looks much better than they did last year. They added Diggs. I mean, that offense, Stroud, Mixon, Nico Collins, Stephon Diggs, Tank Dell, that's those 5. You line them up with any 5 offensive players in the NFL right now, and you know, Houston has an argument to be the best one. DeMeco Ryans showed that he can be a very good coach. Texans, I don't think that they're in the conversation for like a first round bye or anything like that, but 10 wins, winning the division. Titans, Jaguars, Colts, kind of all in that 7-ish win range right after that. I don't think any of them are going to be horrendous, but I also don't think any of them are going to be very good. Jaguars would be the one team that could maybe challenge, I guess, if things go right for them, but I don't know, some feels off with them.
Yeah, I'm going to take Houston to also win the division. I'll go Jacksonville 2, contending for a playoff spot. I'm going to come up with my 7 playoff teams here in a bit. Indianapolis 3rd. I mean, I'd love to see Richardson play all season and see what they could do, but you know, we'll see if that actually happens. I'll go Titans last. Just not a lot of talent there in Tennessee.
Even though they added who is it? Calvin Ridley, who they poached from the Jaguars. DeAndre Hopkins, is he still a Titan?
Yes, but still Will Levis.
Yes, but and so imagine like 2 years ago saying the Tennessee Titans would go into a season with Tony Pollard, DeAndre Hopkins, and Calvin Ridley.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, I guess I should kind of backtrack. They do have some talent, a little bit older talent. And how's that going to mix with a young, inexperienced, not sure how good of a quarterback he is in Will Levis? Going to be interesting to see, but I'll take Tennessee last in that division.
All right. We move to the NFC. We'll get back to our playoff seeds in a second here, but real quick run through the NFC. I'm all in on the Lions still. I don't think last year was a one-off thing. I think that it was the start of what should be a mini successful run there in Detroit. They don't really have a set weakness. Like Jared Goff looks like a top 10 quarterback. Jahmyr Gibbs and Montgomery in the backfield is awesome. Sam Laporta is now in the conversation, especially with Kelsey getting older, is the best tight end in football. You have Amon-Ra St. Brown. On the other side, Aiden Hutchinson is becoming a premier pass rusher. Like they have a lot to work with, and Dan Campbell is great. The guys believe in him, and that's really what matters. It's a tough schedule. It's a really tough schedule, especially to close out the year. But I think Detroit at 12 wins ends up getting the division. But I'll say this. When I went through and I picked the winners of every game for 18 weeks, I had the Packers and your Chicago Bears, Rodney, making the playoffs. 11 wins for the Packers, 10 wins for the Bears, which was good enough to make the playoffs in the NFC. So 3 playoff teams coming from the NFC North. I think certainly they get at least 2, but 3, we'll see. But I like all 3 of those teams. And the Vikings, I think the Vikings as a result are just going to be really, really bad with Sam Darnold for a full year. And if he gets hurt, then it's over.
I'm going to flip Chicago and Green Bay. I'm going to take Green Bay Chicago second in the division, Green Bay third. Green Bay is going to take that little step down from last year. Again, we talked about this. The high that they were on last year was not quite as good as they are and will be this year. So I'll take Detroit 1, Chicago 2, Green Bay 3, and Minnesota 4.
The NFC East. Cowboys, Eagles, Commanders, Giants. This is a division that famously has not had a repeat winner in 20 years. When I went through, there were a couple things that surprised me. Number one, I had the Cowboys and Eagles tied at 11 wins. So I think they might have been tied last year too, but the Cowboys had the tiebreaker. It's the same thing this year where the Cowboys have the tiebreaker over the Eagles. So the Cowboys would end up winning the division. So by default, I guess that's who I'm taking. But the Eagles are right there, 11 wins, good enough to get one of those playoff spots, like the first or second wild card. So the Cowboys would be the first repeat winner in 20 years in the NFC East, but also the Commanders. And this was the kind of a team that we were debating on Tuesday, and their over-under was 8.5 wins, and I was like, I'll take under there, but I wasn't super convinced. I went through the schedule. I have the Commanders at 9-8, so I guess I might have to revisit what we were talking about in Gas or Ass to say that Washington might be good enough to get that over. It depends on how Jane Daniels is healthy, but I like the way that their schedule lines up quite a bit. It's a last place schedule because they ended up 4th last year, which helps them. And then the Giants last place, 6 wins again. It's just not tough start, and then they're going to win some meaningless games in the middle of their season.
I'll take Philly to win the division. I actually am going to take Philly to be the number 1 seed in the NFC this year. I'll take Philly number 1. I'll take Dallas 2, Giants 3, Washington 4. I still don't think Washington is any good defensively at all. And then a rookie quarterback could run into some issues there. I'll take your Giants to be 3rd in the division.
Yeah, the defense is going to be a huge problem. Ideally, Dan Quinn as your head coach helps with that. Has ran a really great defense in Dallas for the last few years, maybe one of the league's best. And, I think naturally him there and be able to focus on the defensive side of the football is going to be a pretty substantial upgrade. I'm interested to see what Cliff Kingsbury does as the play caller in Washington, though, because he's just one of those guys where I feel like his stock was a lot higher 5 or 6 years ago than it is today.
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned Dan Quinn having a really good defense in Dallas. He also had dudes there.
He did have dudes.
I'm not so sure Washington has dudes like Dallas had dudes. So we'll see. But, I'm going to take Washington last until they can prove to me that why am I taking the Giants to beat anybody? I don't know, but I will take Washington 3, your Giants 4.
All right. NFC West, barring anything totally insane, the 49ers should win this division pretty comfortably. I have the 49ers sitting at 12-5. The rest of the division, I don't really love the Rams. They lost Aaron Donald. Stafford's another year older. I feel like Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua are both sort of have that injury bug now going into the year. Kyron Williams returning punts is a choice. I think Rams are second in that division at 8-9, and then the Cardinals and Seahawks I don't think will be totally horrendous, but I got them both at 6 wins. I don't like Seattle this year, and I think Arizona with Kyler Murray for a full year will be better, but not, oh my God, this team is contending for a playoff spot. There's a lot of holes there, especially on defense. So 49ers, though, should be the clear, easy winner in the West once again.
So I do think Seattle will be fine. I do. I think they got a new offensive look, new offensive coordinator, new head coach. I like Pete Carroll. I like what he did for the game of football. I thought he was always enthusiastic. Now, did he rub me wrong sometimes? Yes, just like everybody that follows football. But I do like, I think their offense is going to be a little more up tempo. Now it's going to have to do a lot with Geno Smith. Is Geno Smith that guy or not? He's got weapons. I really like Najigbu this year. Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf are still there. You got Ken Walker as a running back. There is talent there. I'm going to take Seattle second in the division, Rams third, Arizona fourth. Until the Cardinals can figure out a way to get out of last place, I'm going to put them last. San Francisco, yeah, we talked about them. They are the number one team there. But I'm taking Seattle to make the playoffs. This is where I'm certainly going to differ from you. You don't have Seattle going to playoffs. I do. We'll see. But I will take Seattle 2, LA 3.
All right, and then the final division is the NFC South, probably the least exciting division overall. Both sort of South divisions on the AFC and NFC aren't really anything to write home about, but our Atlanta Falcons, we both liked the gas for the Falcons. I got them at 10 wins. It's not a super easy schedule, but there are enough opportunities for them to win games. Kirk's going to be healthy. And even if Kirk goes down, and part of the reason why we really liked him is because even if Kirk goes down, I feel like Michael Penix Jr. could come in and keep the ship moving. To be that high on him, they must see something that a lot of people didn't at the time. But the Falcons win 10 games. They get the division. I think Tampa Bay takes a little bit of a step back. I have them at 8 and 9. So not great, but you know, they're gonna have playoff aspirations moving into the last few weeks of the season. Panthers, I have in third place. I think the new head coach there is gonna do really well for Bryce Young. I mean, it's the same guy, Dave Canales, who really helped unlock Baker Mayfield in Tampa last year. Yeah. So I think that Carolina did a lot of the right moves in the offseason to give their franchise quarterback the pieces that he needs to elevate. So I have the Panthers at 5 wins, and the Saints I have in last place 4 and 13. No one, I don't see it. Dennis Allen, I've never thought is a good coach. It seems like Derek Carr is just one of those guys that just he's past his prime, and they just don't really have the weapons for him at this point. It's not going to be a very good team in New Orleans. So that's sort of my surprise. I think a lot of people assume the Panthers are going to be in last, but I just think the Saints are going to be really bad this year.
Yeah, so I'll flip New Orleans and Carolina. I'll take New Orleans 3, Carolina 4, but neither one of them will be sniffing the postseason. I guess Canales is a difference, hopefully for them, a difference maker. But until Bryce Young can show me that he's ready to play in the NFL, I'll take them last. Not a Derek Carr guy either, but we'll take him and his kind of veteran leadership. I think they have a better chance of maybe pulling an upset against Atlanta or Tampa than Carolina does, as far as maybe a one-off game, which could give them third place. I'll take Tampa Bay too, and then we did the gas or ass and went with gas on the Falcons, so I've got to take them to win the division. They're the only team in that division that makes the playoffs, though, for me. Atlanta is the 4 seed, is what my book says here. So if we want to go all the way through the playoff seeds, we can here with a few minutes left.
Yeah, let's just run through them real quick. So we'll move back to the AFC. So my final seeds, once I put in all the numbers. So Ravens are the 1 seed, Bills are the 2 seed, Chiefs are the 3, Texans 4. Your 4 division winners in that order. And then for the wild card, I have the Bengals as the 5 seed, the Browns at 6, and the Jets sneaking in an 11-win 7 seed. So I think the AFC is really stacked at the top, but the Jets just getting in there. So we'd be looking at a Jets versus Bills first-round matchup, which would be fun. Browns at Chiefs, and then which would be a rematch from a couple years ago, and then Bengals at Texans. So pretty familiar opponents with all those. And then the NFC, just to run down, and then we'll get to yours, Rodney. The NFC, I have 49ers 1, the Lions 2. So I think both of them at 12 wins, but the 49ers just get the tiebreaker. Cowboys 3, Falcons 4. Eagles are your 5 seed. Packers 6, and then Bears as the 7. So first round, we're looking at Bears at Lions, divisional matchup. Packers at Cowboys, an exact rematch of last year's game where Green Bay obliterated them. And then Eagles at Falcons, which could be a pretty fun one.
Yeah. So AFC for me, I'm going to go Bills as my number 1 seed. Buffalo is good, and I know that Stephon Diggs, loss is big, but Josh Allen's going to find guys this year. Keon Coleman, maybe offensive rookie of the year, possibly. Probably not, because it's probably going to go to a quarterback, but I do like Keon Coleman. Shakir is going to be better this year and have a good year for them. But I'll go Buffalo 1, Kansas City 2. I'll go Cincinnati 3. I'll go Houston 4, Baltimore 5, Miami 6, and Jacksonville 7. Which would put Jacksonville at Kansas City, would put Miami at Cincinnati, and would put Baltimore at Houston. That would be an interesting game. Ravens, Texans, first round matchup. In the NFC, I'm going to go the Eagles number 1. San Francisco moves to 2 this year. They fall back a little bit. They start realizing that the regular season, trying to win 14, 15 games maybe isn't needed in the NFC West, maybe more like 12 because Seattle only gets like 9 or 10 and they don't need to win every game. So San Francisco falls to 2. Detroit is your 3 seed. Atlanta's 4. Dallas 5, Seattle 6, Chicago 7. So that matchup would put Chicago at San Francisco. See you, Bears. That's where your run comes to an end.
Goodbye.
Seattle at Detroit. See you, Seahawks. Good run, but see ya. And then the Falcons hosting the Cowboys, and I'll take Dallas to win that game in Atlanta. So my final 4 in the NFC is going to be Philadelphia, San Francisco, Detroit, Dallas. My final 4 in the AFC is going to be Buffalo, Kansas City, Cincinnati, Baltimore. There's my NFL Elite 8.
We actually, so a couple differences, but for the most part, not crazy. Like, not crazy off there. I think, like, you're higher on Seattle and your teams like Jacksonville than I am. I'm a little bit higher on the Packers and the Jets. I would say are probably the two that I'm higher on than you are, certainly. So finally, I'll ask you this, Rodney, before we do some quick best bets for betting for this weekend. Your Super Bowl 59 matchup and winner.
Eagles beat the Bills.
Hate it.
I know you do. I know you do.
Hate you.
I know you hate it. What's yours?
All right. I want to preface this by saying that this was me wanting this matchup to happen and putting it out there into the universe, like manifesting it, so that it could happen. And I think that this would truly be America's Super Bowl. I have the Lions beating the Bengals 35-31 in New Orleans in February 2025. The Detroit Lions will win the Super Bowl.
Couple true Patriots there, Jared Goff and Joe Burrow.
I mean, don't tell me with a straight face that you wouldn't love that matchup in a Super Bowl.
But if Burrow, so you got Lions over, who'd you say, Bengals?
The Bengals. Yeah. I think we get the healthy Joe Burrow. So I'll just tell you real quick. So we get the healthy Joe Burrow.
Joe Burrow losing. You got Joe Burrow losing in New Orleans.
Oh God. I didn't even think about the New Orleans angle. Oh God, the LSU angle. Oh
right. Like,
oh no.
Joe Burrow, if Joe Burrow gets to New Orleans, he's not losing that game. So I'm okay with Lions Bengals. I'm okay with Lions Bengals, but you picked the wrong team to win the game. I mean, the Bengals are beating the Lions with Burrow in New Orleans. He's not losing in New Orleans.
Oh God. No.
Yeah.
Oh, and Jamar Chase. Oh no.
Right? Yeah, it's not happening.
All right. Well, it's too late for me. I put it out on the internet. I have to roll with it. But I do love the Lions. I love the Lions again. The Bengals, I have them, just to give you just a brief little rundown. I have them beating the Texans in Houston, the Road Warriors, which I think is possible. There's one team that can beat the Chiefs in the playoffs, and it's the Bengals, as we've seen before. Just Joe Burrow seems to be sort of the you know what it's like? I compared it to this. I was talking to a buddy the other day. Imagine, so you have Patrick Mahomes as Tom Brady, right? And then you have Josh Allen, who's like the Peyton Manning. And a lot of people think that's the rivalry. Meanwhile, there's a Ben Roethlisberger that's sort of the wild card in it, who will come in and can beat both of those guys, who can beat Brady and who can get his team to the big game. That's what I think Joe Burrow is, like, in this AFC era of quarterbacks. I think Joe Burrow is the Ben Roethlisberger of this, where he's sort of the guy on the outside of the main discussion, but he's the one who can win those games and the Brady run to the Super Bowl or beat Peyton or whoever. Like, that's how I view him. But I think that the Bengals would beat Kansas City in the divisional round, and then they play Baltimore in Baltimore, which is tough, but Joe Burrow versus Lamar Jackson is what we talked about at the beginning of the show today. Like, quarterback, you need to win, game for your life. Lamar Jackson or Joe Burrow. I'm going to take Joe Burrow. So it's a tough road, but then they might just be a little bit out of gas by the time that they get to New Orleans because of all that run that they had to go through on the road. I think maybe Detroit had a little bit easier of a path, and it's going to pay off for them by the time they get there. That's the angle I'm going to go with. Okay, that's what I'm going with.
All right.
But the Detroit Lions are my
Sounds good.
Super Bowl team.
All right.
All right.
Best
We
bet
got
for betting?
best bets for betting. Yeah. So let's do it like this. So rather than just going through every single week one matchup, and maybe like on our Twitter or something, we can post sort of our full week one picks, bets we like from each game. We could do that. But let's just give a few of our best bets for betting. Now, this is something that we're going to track all throughout the season. So far, Rodney and I are each 2-1. We had 3 each that we did for week one of college football. You can do any bet. You can do college, you can do NFL, but give me like 3 or 4 of your favorite bets this weekend that you are hammering. College, NFL. We're going to keep track, and then we're going to recap them on episode 5 of the Stupidest Sports Show on Earth. So, Rodney, I'll let you go first here. What's the one that you are going to, your first best bet for betting?
Tonight, Eagles -2. Simple.
Just like
Eagles
that?
-2. Yeah. You want me to give it? We're gonna go back and forth here.
We'll go back and forth. Yeah. So all right. So let me write these down, okay? Because I want to keep track of them. There needs to be a record of these. So I'll task you with that. So you have Eagles -2. I'm gonna go Falcons -3 against the Steelers. It's the debut of Kirk Cousins in Atlanta. Suddenly, we have this drama with the Steelers where Thursday night, it's like, oh, by the way, Russell Wilson has some calf tightness. He might not be available on Sunday. So we could have a situation where Justin Fields gets thrust into the starting lineup with a new team. I just think the Falcons have that juice right now, and I like them with the new coach to come in and make a statement in that first game. I know Pittsburgh is not an easy opponent, but I like the Falcons at home -3 there. That's my first best bet for the weekend.
Bengals -8.5 is my second one. It's New England. I'm going to fade New England at any chance I get all year this year. So Cincinnati -8.5 is my second one.
I'll do another favorite. The Bills, for some reason, are only a 6.5-point home favorite. Home against the Cardinals. Now, if it was at Arizona, I could understand it. It's just one of the, those late afternoon games at Arizona, just wild stuff happens. I get it. But in Buffalo, like I know that, there's no Stephon Diggs, but I don't think the Bills win that game by a field goal or anything. I think they win by at least a touchdown. 6.5, such a good number. So the Bills -6.5 is my second best bet for betting.
I got 2 more. I'll stay in the NFL for my third one here. You're not going to like this one. I'm going to go Rams +4.5. So
Rams against the Lions.
See,
it was a close game last year.
I mean, you saw it last year with Kansas City, their first game. They had a little bit of a downfall against Detroit. I think Detroit's going to sluggish maybe early, try to get themselves their feet under them, get going. I'm not saying Detroit's going to lose this game, but I think the Rams and Sean McVay will keep this game competitive. I will take the Rams +4.5 as my third game.
You're not going to like this one either because you're not high on the Commanders. But Washington, 3.5-point underdog in Tampa Bay. I like the Commanders to cover that spread. I know, but it's the first Jane Daniels game. I know he's healthy. I like the vibes that they're putting out early. So I'm going to go with Washington +3.5 in Tampa. I don't know if they win. They might, but I'll take them to cover there.
I'm okay with it. I hope it's like 38-35. I want to see points and points and points. I got a lot of Baker shares this weekend, so would like to see Baker and Evans and Godwin, whoever's throwing to. All right, so my last game, I'll go to the college game. I'm going to go with Texas -7. Not sold on Michigan, and maybe it's disrespect of the national champions. Maybe it's disrespect of the Big Ten. Not me. No way. I wouldn't do that. But I will go Texas -7 on the road at Michigan as my fourth and final best bet for betting.
My fourth and final. We're going to get away from spread for a second. And I'm going to give you a bet that is going to shock you. It may shock you, but I promise that when we do this show on Tuesday night, you're going to be like, wow, Tim, I am so happy that I tailed your final best bet for betting because I am a very rich man or woman today. The New York Jets won't just cover on Monday night. Aaron Rodgers and the New York Jets will win at San Francisco plus 170. If you can get them at an even larger number, take it. Find the best money line you can. Bet it on the Jets. They will win Monday night. They will.
You're such a huckleberry.
Don't overthink
you are
it.
the huckleberry.
Don't overthink it. The Jets roster.
Don't overthink it.
Great. Aaron Rodgers, Brock Purdy. Aaron Rodgers, Brock Purdy. Oh, and by the way, Rodney, by the way, the Jets head coach, Robert Saleh, knows a thing or two about what to expect from San Francisco. Last I checked. They'll be ready.
You know what? Want to know something else? You want to know something else about Robert Saleh? He stinks as a head coach. He stinks. Okay, Aaron Rodgers or Brock Purdy. Okay, I've never been a Brock Purdy fan, but Aaron Rodgers has one leg.
I mean, Brock Purdy doesn't have a arm, so.
That's true. It's just more disrespect to the San Francisco 49ers. The Jets are not winning that game.
It's not a disrespect thing. It is a reverence and appreciation of the Jets who are going to win Monday night. Hey, I remind you that last year, the same night that Aaron Rodgers' leg exploded, the Jets won that game against Buffalo with Zach Wilson. And they managed to win, 7 games last year with Zach Wilson and a collection of crap. Okay? Before we throw this about Robert Saleh, I just want to point that out. The Jets, book it. My final best bet for betting will win Monday Night Football. Find the best money line you can. Bet not the house, but just like a car payment or something. You'll be all right.
Barry Bonds stat, you ready?
Barry Bonds stat. All right, let's wrap up the show. This is, of course, the way that we like to end every single episode of the Stupidest Sports Show on Earth, where we talk about the stupidest player to ever exist in terms of a stupid good. Barry Bonds. Rodney has today's Barry Bonds stat of the day. So, Mr. Newple, what did Barry Bonds do that just defied all logic and reason?
So this stat actually came from 17 days ago. And I know Barry Bonds' stats haven't changed in the last 17 days. But, so career intentional walks. Barry Bonds had 688 in his career. 688 times he was intentionally walked. As of 17 days ago, the Tampa Rays organization had 681. The entire organization. So as of 17 days ago, unless the Rays have intentionally walked 7 times in the last 17 days, Barry Bonds is still beating the Tampa Rays in intentional walks.
That's a 26-year-old franchise now, if I'm doing the math correctly, because they came in 1998 was their first year.
And you're talking every player on that team for 26 years,
correct,
has less intentional walks than Barry Bonds does in their career. That's amazing to me. And I know intentional walks is not skill, but it's the skill that he had to get intentionally walked, which is the amazing part. 688 intentional walks. Good work, Barry Bonds. Here's to you, buddy.
And that's a very good stat. And Tampa Bay, it's crazy to think about because they were so bad at first, but I would say for most of their franchise history now has been considered a pretty good team. Yeah. Certainly the last 15 years or so have been a consistent playoff contender. So a lot of good players have come through there, have had 20 plus homers, have helped them win 90, 95 games. And all of those good hitters still pale in comparison to just one person, Barry Bonds.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
That's it.
What an amazing player. All right. That was good. That was a good stat, Rodney. I'll come up with one for Tuesday. We'll kind of rotate back and forth, and I will give you the Barry Bonds stat that will make you lose your freaking mind.
All right, man. Hey, college football tomorrow is some pretty good games, but NFL on Sunday. And I think we're going to spend a couple hours together on Sunday. So a bunch of stupid sports fans will be out watching football together. How stupid would that be? That's going to be stupid. But I'm looking forward to the week of football. And I hope I don't freeze to death in Champaign tomorrow night.
Yeah, I looked at the forecast after you said that. So this weekend, and again, this is very limited to just central Illinois here. So I apologize if you're somewhere that's not this and this doesn't apply to you at all. But yeah, in our neck of the woods, we have a high of like low 70s, high 60s for 2 days. Like it's almost like the weather gods were saying, enjoy this weekend of football. We're going to give you some football weather, because right after that, we get back into the 80s. And then next week it's like 85, 87. Just to give you that little taste of football weather. I love
2 days of it.
That's all I need. That's all.
So, all right, man. Good show again.
Would you do that trade? You get 5 hot days, but then every weekend is that fall chill, but it's just that year round.
Can I bargain for 4?
You want 4 hot days or 4 chill days?
Yeah, 4 hot days, 3 chill days.
3 chill days. All right. All right.
Yeah.
Every Thursday night's a chill day.
Yeah. All right. And then you get Friday, Saturday, Sunday of chill?
No. So you get Thursday chill, Friday's hot. So the high school kids just got to dog it out there in the heat. And then Saturday, Sunday, you get the fall chill for your college and NFL. I'm good with that. That's a compromise.
I feel like there'd be a lot of people with pneumonia. People would be getting pneumonia all the time because we go from like 60 to 90 and then back to 60, and then Monday it's back up to 90. I feel like the sickness would be a little more rampant.
It probably has to be 3 days in a row. So maybe like a Saturday, Sunday, Monday night football, and then
there we go
from there.
Yeah.
Let's go with that.
Again.
All right. A reminder that this stupid conversation on the stupidest sports show on earth can be available wherever you get your podcasts. We're on Spotify, we're on Apple, we're on iHeart, we're on YouTube, just like wherever you normally listen to podcasts. Look us up there, the stupidest sports show on earth. You could follow us on social media. We're at Stupid Sports Show on Twitter, without a W at the end. Very important. But I believe we have the W everywhere else.
You're correct.
Yeah, not confusing. All right, Rodney. Any final thoughts, or just do we end it how we started? Just football.
Go Eagles.
Oh God. We're having such a great show too. Just such a great show.
Hey man, they're my Super Bowl pick, so they've got to start it off strong tonight in Brazil.
Should be a good one. Go Lions for the season. Go Lions. I believe. All right. That was Rodney Newpel. I'm Tim, the Great Bambino Van Stratton. This was episode 4 of the Stupidest Sports Show on Earth. We'll talk to you Tuesday night live on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. All right. Enjoy your football weekend. See ya.
All right. See ya.
Step right up, dummies, and listen to the Stupidest Sports Show on Earth with Rodney Newpel and Tim Van Stratton. Yeah.